Okay, perfect. Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the second PULSATE webinar about the adopters open call. We will wait 2 minutes more, okay, to let everyone enter to the webinar. So please give us a second and we'll officially start. And so in the middle, I'll mute myself and we'll wait 1-2 minutes more. Okay, perfect. I think we can start then to not wait for those that were punctual. Perfect. So once again, thank you for joining us. So today, as you know, this is our second webinar, and that is related to the open call for the adopter SMEs. This is the call launched by PULSATE project. So today we'll tell you, well, at the beginning, I will provide you a short introduction to the open call for those of you that might have not been familiar on this, although we had previous webinar focused on the much more details, but today I will briefly describe you of the rules, so who, what, and how. Then I'm the senior project manager at Funding Box. I'm the open call manager of this project and also a partner of the PULSATE. And then Tian Mengxi, that is a product development manager and also responsible for the support program in PULSATE from MTC, Manufacturing Technology Center from UK. We'll tell you a bit more about the implementation assessment support. So that is actually what we'll tell you about our plans, what will be provided to the SMEs, to the adopters that will be selected through this open call. So I believe it will also allow you to make the decision if applied or not, and also to write the winning proposal once you know actually what's expected. And we invite you in the meanwhile, during the webinar, we invite you to write the questions in the chat box, and at the end of the session we'll have a Q&A. Part where Alessandra, that is also today with us from the technical side managing the webinar, will ask the questions to us. Okay, so let's start. So first, for those of you that have not heard about PULSATE before, PULSATE is the European founded project. It's Horizon 2020 funded project. We have started last year. And it is the project that is under the I4MS initiative. So all these projects aim to support the digitalization of different technologies in Europe. And PULSATE itself is focused on laser-based advanced and additive manufacturing. We have multiple goals. Well, one of the main ones, and also that's why we are organizing the open call, is to reach the SMEs and mid-caps, so the small companies, to support in digitalization with this particular technology. But other goals, also very important one, is to create the network around this project. So not only with SMEs and not only the partners of the PULSATE, but this year actually we will be also making the strong actions towards other competence centers, digital innovation hubs, public institutions that are interested in technology, so we can create a strong network that will be able to support the companies and also be able to provide the services. So the ultimate goal is to create this catalog of services for laser-based advanced and additive manufacturing, and we'll do it through Digital Agora. It will be an online marketplace where we'll gather all the stakeholders and services. So This is the ultimate goal, and as I mentioned, we are already working on it since 1 year. And the consortium or the key partners are are specialized, of course, in the technology. So as you can see, we have at least 6 competence centers that are working on the technology side, and they aim to connect, to create this network and make it stronger. The leader or the coordinator of consortium is IMEN, the technology center from Spain, but we also have representatives from Norway, like Sintef, from France, CA List, Fraunhofer, Germany, the FTMC code, so they are from Lithuania, and of course NTC from UK. And all these technical competences are also supported by funding box that we're specialized in the open call management and dissemination, and we're also responsible for the community building. And then we have dissemination partner EPIC, that is European Photonics Industry Consortium, and Glasgow, that is a company responsible for building the Digital Agora. So with this strong consortium, we believe we will be able to reach the goal and support the technology in its implementation. And as I mentioned, open calls is one of the key elements of the project. So we have 2 modalities of the open calls. Today we'll focus on the adopters use cases because this is what the open call is about. But just to let you know, there's also technology transfer experiments open call. The first one was closed last year, so you can also see already in our community the examples of the support given by the PULSATE consortium of its results, and also the examples of the implementation of LBAAM technology. Okay, so experiments are a bit bigger because they last 1 year, and we selected there the consortia of the technology provider and end user. So at the end, in that open call, we were focusing more on developing and validating the technology already. And also the funding was a bit higher, and the number of experiments was lower, it was 10. So that was for more advanced technology, and the difference with the adopters use cases that is launched now, that we will talk about today, is that the adopters use cases is for end users only. So I will tell you about that later, but we're looking for adopters that would like to prepare for the implementation of LBAAM technology. So that's why the support is shorter, 3 months. The funding is also lower because, well, it's the 3 months is very focused on the assessment side. And well, it's a bit easier because you do not have to find a partner to apply with, so only end users can apply with a solid use case. And as you can see also with the timeline, so now we are having the adopters use cases open call by the end of March, but then right after this, we'll also launch the experiments open call. Okay, so also if you're an end user and you might not be selected in this open call, you can also try to find a provider and maybe apply to the experiments. So multiple options depending on the level of the adoption or of the laser technology into your process, I would say, and also of your profile. Okay, if you're an end user or if you're the innovator tech provider. So we will have 3 open calls more. 1 was closed. We'll find more than 60 projects, and we have more than 4 million euro to redistribute for this main focus, that is laser adoption. And here is the landing page for the open calls in case you want to see all of them. Okay, this is the entry point. But to the point about the adopters open call, that's what we're going to talk about today. So who is the ideal adopter? Okay, so first I already mentioned like the profile, that it has to be the end user, or we call it technology adopter. So we also call it manufacturing SME. And so there are like different names for that, but the idea is that you have a process and business where you would like to apply the laser-based advanced additive technology, and you can see the use case for it. Okay, so this is important that it has to be applied to your process, to your company. Okay, the use case, the technology. You should have also the clear idea on how it can be applied. So of course we will not select like the best ones like we did with the experiments. It's more about feasibility of your proposal. So we are looking for the adopters that have some vision, all the technology, and they need to assess if that's actually feasible, okay, in the future. So you have to show your ambition, you have to show that you know the challenges, you know the risks, that you have some initial plan, and you have to tell us what you need. So based on that, we will be able to to select the most feasible and the high potential use cases that will be funded for this open call. Okay, so it's a bit different than the normal ones, because we are looking for people that have needs and that we can actually help you to assess those needs and reality. And from the formal part, we accept, well, only SMEs or slightly bigger companies are eligible. So the top limit is the people employed less than 500, and also you should have a look on your annual turnover that is less or equal to 100 million euro. Okay, so these details are included in guide for applicants. So please double check if you have SME status, and then of course, as it's European program, companies registered in EU or associated countries. So this is in the scope. Also, I wanted to mention about the I4MS funding limit, because I know that many of you also come from the I4MS project, or, well, I would say ecosystem. So it is important to remember that there is a funding limit that is 100,000 euro per entity in PULSATE open calls, but also in the I4MS or CA projects. Okay, so if you were selected in Change to Twin or Better Factory, please remember to not exceed this amount. And how to apply? I'm not sure if Alessandra can post the link, but I believe most of you has already seen this, our website for the open call. Here you can see, well, you click Apply Now button, and then the application will open. So you can have a look on that and fill it. You have to fill it and then, of course, submit before the deadline. Important tip: we advise you to not wait for the last moment, of course. So you should, if you have a full application, we advise you to submit it, and then you can still edit it under the deadline. Okay, so this is also technical tip, let's say. And then on this website, you should definitely go to the Read First section to read the guide for applicants and frequently asked questions. These are the two key documents. And then in Get Help, you can find additional documents, info days, events that we provide for the applicants to support you with the process. So yeah, here is the Read First section. So except of guide for applicants and frequently asked questions, we also made available the application form offline. Okay, so it's PDF that you can use, to work on the application offline. But please remember that only those submitted for the official online form will be accepted. And then we also have published the subgrant agreement draft that you can have a look on to see like the conditions on which we will work with the selected SMEs. What will be evaluated? There are 4 steps. The eligibility check is automatic one almost, so we'll check your if you come from the European country or if you mark the declaration of honor. So this is quite easy step. But the key in the process is the experts evaluation. We have engaged external experts that are specialists in the laser-based domain in photonics, and they will review the submitted proposals and will score them against these 3 main sections, that is excellence, impact, and implementation. And then we'll receive the ranking. We'll have a ranking based on the scores. And consensus during the consensus meeting, PULSATE Consortium will discuss the ranking and check, if the proposals are within the scope, and will decide which one are selected. And those that are selected will be invited to the final legal check, when you have to provide a series of documents to confirm your SME status, that you're not a bankrupt. So this will be like more legal part that will take 1 month. And then you will be invited to sign the subgrant agreement with PULSATE. So, just if you're wondering what's in the application form or what we will pay attention to, as I mentioned, it's focused on this use case So like, what is your current status of the adoption? So your ambition, the challenges that you think you will face, the impact. So we also care about this European dimension. So, well, first you should focus on the impact on your business and tell us like what you actually see from the adoption, what will be the benefit from you. But then we are also interested in scalability. So if you think there is like any other businesses that could take advantage from such an adoption, from such an example, it is always a strong point. And then social economic impacts are additional and optional, but always have added value. And then for the implementation part, we'll have a look on your team. So you have to confirm that actually after the assessments, you will be able to execute the implementation. And also we want to see who will be working on the assessment. Okay, so there will be many information that you should also provide to prepare such an assessment. So it's important to dedicate like technical team members, business team members to fulfill, to close the assessment with a good result. Then the resources needed. So Tian will describe a bit more about support program, but if you have like any additional needs, as I mentioned, we are creating the network that aims to support the adopters. So we are also open to hear on that and try to help you if we can. And then we'll ask you to plan the budget, which is this 25,000 euro. So you will just have to include mostly personal cost, because you have to take into account that the funding that is given for these 3 months for the winners has to be dedicated to the execution of the assessment. Okay, so we got a lot of questions like, can I buy the machine afterwards for the implementation of LASER or things like this? And the answer is that you have to spend this money during the 3 months. Okay, so this is mostly like to allow you to dedicate the personnel and the staff from your company to do the assessment. Okay, so because we know it's the additional thing for your daily business. So that's why usually like most of the costs will be the personal ones, but of course, if you need to travel to do the assessment, or if there are any like other goods that you need to buy, you should also include it. Then you should calculate the overheads, that it's always 25% of the personal cost, travel or consumables. And then subcontracting, we really think there will be not much need for the subcontracting, but of course it is the standard European category, so it's included. So basically you should summarize, you have the total cost, and it's important that the requested amount you should calculate as the 70% of the total costs. Okay, so this is important. If we have created the examples of such a budget, so you can have a look to the frequently asked questions, and you can see the calculation made there for the for the top and for the minimum, so you can see. But what's important here to remember that the requested amount is maximum 25,000. Okay, so you should not exceed that in your calculations. And as I mentioned at the beginning, please remember about limit per I4MS projects, and also if you participated in the first PULSATE open call, it's 100,000 euro per third party. So that's it from the rules and the budget. Here is just the timeline. So as you know, the application is until 31st of March. Then we'll have 2 months for the selection process. In April, we'll do the external evaluation, and in May, the consensus meeting. So by the end of May, we should have the open call results, okay, that we publish always after the legal review. So that's why usually it takes a bit more time. And then during the summer period, we will have 3 months of signing the subgrant agreement. So that's when the IMEN, the PULSATE coordinator, will contact you for the signature. And we plan to start the assessment program, the support program in September, probably with some welcome event, and it should end by the end of November. If you need help, you can post your question in our help desk, okay, in the community, PULSATE community. You can send us the message directly to our help desk email. But we recommend you to also read the frequently asked question document that we update with all the questions we received, and also to join more webinars. Actually, next week there will be a lot of local info days, so partners organize it per country. And we'll also have a last webinar on 25th of March, where we'll try to summarize all the questions we received and also give you some tips on how to improve the proposal. So that's it from my side about the open call, and I pass the voice to Tian.
Yep. Thank you, Isabella, for the introduction. So I'm just going to I'm just going to run through the second half of the webinar. It's going to be around the assessment support and also that we provided in PULSATE, and hopefully through the second half of the session, it will give you a little bit more insight as to what you're going to get out of the project, and also hopefully that should convince you to apply for it. Yes, next please. Yeah, so why should you apply for this particular funding? So as Isabella mentioned, so there is obviously money attached to it, which is 25k euros funding of a match funding of up to 70%. So and that is to be spent over the course of 3 months. So although the amount doesn't seem big, but it is a substantial amount, especially for SMEs to look into feasibility and also to do some evaluation work, to sort of like to make sure that the right technology, the right system, or the right laser source, etc., before you actually go into investing into laser-based processing, and that in effect helps to reduce the risk, and also hopefully will reduce the barrier of entry in the early stage of the adoption process. In addition to that, as part of the program as well, each of the projects will be assigned with a mentor that will be selected from one of the 6 core consortium partners within the PULSATE committee, and they will be the one that will be carefully selected to match the type of laser-based processing that you were looking to adopt, or you're looking to look into for your particular project, and they will be the one that will be able to guide you through the adoption process, whether it is to look at technical feasibility or to look at the business viability of your particular concept or vision of what you want to do with laser-based processing. So as mentioned, the whole core and the whole nature of the call is for you to utilize the funding and also the support to look into the technical or the business feasibility in your adoption journey for laser-based processing. And hopefully at the end of the project, you will have an implementation plan of what you have proposed, what you have in mind for your business, and that can be anything from in a very business perspective, or it can be very technical perspective in terms of machine down selection, or laser source down selections, or identifying supply chains, etc. So it can be a range of things that covers the both two aspects of the technology. Next, please. Yeah, so just to for those of you who are aware of laser-based processing, you would know that there is a lot of different applications and markets that laser processing can be used for. And for those of you who don't, hopefully this slides of this presentation will give you some insights into what actually you can do with laser processing. So in general speaking, lasers can be used for, I would say, either addition of materials or removal of materials. Those are the two, I would say, main big categories. And under those two big categories, then you can go down to different processes For example, for laser removal, you have cutting, drilling, texturing, laser cleaning, and for materials addition, you will have laser cladding or direct energy deposition, as some people prefer to call it. You have laser-based additive manufacturing, powder-based version, and also you also have some other processes, for example, laser hardening, laser cleaning, laser shot peening, etc., etc. So those are I would say, the common processes that you can do with laser-based processing. And in addition to that as well, you can also use lasers, for inspection as stuff. So in terms of the applications and sector areas that you can do, just to give you some examples here. So like, for example, in aerospace, people have been looking at using lasers to harden material, for example, through laser hardening or laser shot peening. And also people have been looking at using laser surface texturing to produce functional surfaces to reduce friction or drag. And also using additive manufacturing, whether there is DED or laser powder bed base, to reduce weight of the structure, to save fuel consumption. And also some other potential applications will be around anti-icing surfaces through laser surface texturing, and also repair is one of the things that people have been looking at in the aerospace, and also in the rail industry, to through like laser cladding or DED for such applications. Yeah, in terms of the medical sectors, people have been looking at antibacterial properties or biocompatibility of implants through laser texturing, or laser surface finishing in that matter, and also things around personalization of your medical implants. So for example, through laser 3D printing, that you can then rather than mass produce standard types of implants, you can actually make the implants as required according to the size of the particular patient, and that as well actually applies to fast consumer goods. So there have been ideas around shoes, for example, that people 3D print shoes that fits exactly to size of individuals, for maximum comfort, and for some people that have specific conditions where they have short long legs and those sorts of stuff. And also things on organs on chips and stuff. So people have been using laser processing and electronics to miniaturize electronics and also sensors for these sorts of applications. In terms of industrial machinery, so that goes into the actual processing. So it will be any laser-based processing. So to do various different applications that we have mentioned before, and that can be to replace, for example, sandblasting applications, or potentially CNC or EBAAM, heat treatment furnaces, depending on the applications. So a lot of them, these sort of like move towards laser-based processing can be around one of those four factors, whether there is easy to clean, or the ability to digitize the process. So as we know that laser processing is a non-contact, and everything is run through control software that can be monitored and also controlled remotely, which can then generate a lot of data for digitization for you to do optimizations and stuff. And also it's very flexible too, so there is multiple different ways of configuring a laser-based processes. It's not only just CNC-based or robotic-based. It can be any of those, or a combination of both, or handheld is also another option as well for these for this technology. And when we touch a bit more on the automotive side of things, so a lot of welding applications has been adopted and seen in the automotive sector. Things around dissimilar material welding, thin section welding, or even thick section welding. Looking at joining, materials that conventionally cannot be joined by other type of, welding methods like TIG and arc. People move on to lasers, and also things around, battery weldings is also one of the very upcoming thing that people have been looking at, which adopt lasers due to the accuracy and also the weldability of joining of these dissimilar materials, where it's more difficult to do with some other welding techniques. Electronics as well, something I've mentioned before is around 3D printer electronics and stuff to enable miniaturization of electronic circuit boards, PCBs, etc. Some of the applications as well also revolved around not just ablation, but also removal of I would say connectors, or pre-processing of connectors prior to bonding, joining. Can also be potential applications around there. In terms of textiles and clothing, things around functional textiles is also one thing that people do by using lasers to pre-treat textile components before they either insert coatings or even bonding electronics onto fabrics, etc. So, I mean, in general, there are a lot of various different applications for lasers, and lasers is a very versatile and powerful tool because it machines any material as long as it absorbs and also have a line of sight. So in this particular program, in order to be successful in it, what we were looking for, as partly alluded by Isabella in her previous presentation, is the you'll have to convince us that whatever you propose is feasible to an extent. We understand that a lot of the work will be done in the project itself, but you'll have to at least provide us with a certain level of confidence in your idea and the executability of it to some extent, whether that is through previous experience or some if you've done some preliminary work already in-house, or it can be from market data, or it can be from conversation with customers. So whatever that is, the more you provide us with, the better. And I would say try to keep them try to be as specific as you can. So for example, don't just say, oh, you want to do dissimilar material welding. That's not good enough. So we want to know a bit more detail on the actual applications that you want to look at. Is there a specific, target component, for example, the type of material, if you can specify things like thickness, example, those sorts of things. The more precision or the more information that you can give on your application, it will help to justify your case. Yeah. Next slide, please. Yeah. And if you run through the applications, you'll probably see this. So this will kind of give you a bit of the flavor as to the sort of categories that we are looking at, that you can look at for this particular funding call. And just one word is that there is no quota on any of those. So don't, I would say, second guess, which one will have less applicants going through, etc., etc. The main reason for this is, one is for you for as a guide, a broader guide to some extent, the sort of areas that you can start looking at to look at potential applications or potential adoption. And the others is more or less for us to have a better match of the mentors to your particular proposal if you choose, depending on which category you choose. Yeah, so all the categories here are quite self-explained. So the adoption, can be, for the first category, it will be in the area of integration and automation, if that is something that you propose or will be sits within. So for example, if you already have let's say lasers processors in-house, but it's very manual, so maybe you use a handheld, for example, and you want to look at doing automated to go into a robotics, etc. So that will fall under that category. So for the second one, the cost effective of laser-based processing, so that is more for if you doing a pro-manufacturing process with, let's say, conventional machining, CNC, or sandblasting or wire EDM, and you want to look at moving into laser-based processing to replace the same process, that was where your proposal will sit in. And for the third category, the first part, right and zero defect, so that is around sensing. So that can be, you have a laser-based process, but you're having a lot of issues, let's say, with scrap, that you're making a lot of mistakes, and you want to look at, methods or ways of, do inline monitoring or some form of monitoring to make sure that your process is more stable than before. Yes, that's where the your proposal sits in. And flexible technology for small to large batches, so that is looking at scalability. So for example, if you have a concept or a proposal that is laser-based, that's been used for, let's say, application A, that is doing small batches, and now you have a different requirement for application B that requires large batches, and you want to see how do you adopt your current manufacturing system to enable the large batch, or vice versa. That is where your proposal will sit in. And the last category, which is a CAD to PLM, so that is around all the digital and software side of things. So things around, programmability, and also design for your application. So for example, if you have a machine that can do texturing, and it can do 3D, but you always use it for 2D, and now you want to use it for 3D. How do you move from that 2D to 3D? Those sorts of stuff, it will fit in that category. Yeah. Next, please. Yeah. So this is just a summary of the the whole call, and sort of also the things to consider before you apply. So the first thing, as Isabella mentioned before, is that you have to make sure that you meet the criteria of the company type that we have specified in the call. So it has to be an end user or a manufacturing company. So in the help document, there is a definition of what do we mean by end users and manufacturing companies. So please refer to that. Once you confirm that you sit in that category, and you're also an SME and a slightly larger companies, then you can go on to look at, what is the case, that you want to adopt or advance your laser-based processing in and for. And then that is where, once you have identified that, then you can ask yourself, the question is, within that 3 months, what aspect of it that you want to work on? Is it more technical or is it more business? I mean, you can obviously ask the question, can I do both? The answer is yes, but with time constraint, I think if you do both, it will be a very, I would say, top level of the two things. So if you want to do something more in depth, our suggestions or advice will be pick one out of the two, then at least you will get, you know, more. But like I said, if you already started on the adoption, and maybe let's say that, you know, you have gone quite a bit or halfway with the technical, and you just want, you know, a bit of a support to top up the finish of that, and then you want to, you know, have your the rest of the funding to look at the business side, yeah, that's fine as well. But do, you know, specify that as much as you can in the application, so that when we review it and also when we do the allocation, we will know what you're expecting from your mentors. Next, please. Yep. So just to give you two examples of you know, the sort of things that you would potentially be looking at, giving the scenarios in terms of the technical support and also the business support. So this example is for the technical support side. So the case, well, the project that they're looking at is to, let's say someone wants to redesign, you know, the bicycle components or the bicycles model that they're selling, and, you know, they want to, you know, come out with a new bicycle products that is lighter weight than their existing model to compete with, you know, let's say other manufacturers. So things that, you know, they'll be considering, for example, is, you know, how do you, you know, reduce the weight, and, you know, what are the sort of things that you can use for AM manufacturing to achieve, you know, the way, because AM, you know, I mean, the one that's on the market at the moment, there are specific materials that people already been using that you can get off the shelf, and there are some materials, if you want to use them, they you know, they did more research in this and stuff like that. And also, you know, how do you offer these sorts of design, or how do you technically design you know, to build these sort of parts and components for AM. So in terms of the mentorship that you will get, as an example, you know, from this program, is things like, you know, what are the sort of materials and platform options that you have for such materials, depending on the type of materials you want to build, the size of the components that you want to build, and obviously the finish, the cost, all that sort of stuff. And also, how do you actually design you know, a component like this to enable it to be built with a laser-based AM machine, because that is very different from your, you know, existing, let's say, CNC CAD design methodology. And the mentors will also be able to help you to develop an end-to-end design process flow. So because additive manufacturing is not just building, you know, there is a lot of different things associated with the pre-process and post-process. So what is that, the sort of, I mean, basically the mentor will run through and help you to understand and also identify what are the process steps that you would need for your particular process, and what are the potential, I would say, either systems or suppliers that you can go for, etc. So the output, you know, it will be a paper-based exercise, and it will be, you know, information on the technology options for your components, the end-to-end process step, and also a recommendation to produce prototypes for you to take away after the end of the project, to then approach, you know, the suppliers, or even any of the I would say partners within the PULSATE, to look at, you know, producing the prototype if you think that that is the business decision that you want to take as the next step. So, and move on to the second example, which is more on the business plan side. So again, with the same I would say project idea on the bicycle, right? So on the business side, you can look at things like, you know, technology landscape, and market size, and also potential customer base and return on investment type of things. So in terms of technology landscape, you know, you might be wanting to look at, I mean, there are obviously other methods to do additive. So then it's the question of, which are the technology that would be most suitable for your particular application. That will be based on both in terms of the, the efficiency, the costs per part and things like that. And also you can also look at things like, is there really a need for such an application or such a product in the marketplace? And if there is, what is the market size, all that sort of stuff. So in terms of the support that you will get, as an example for this is, we will be able to, the mentors will be able to run top level MPA analysis to look at, novelty, or at least to look at freedom to operate if you want to do it. And that will also give you some indication of, is there any area or scope for you to protect any IP, foreground IP, that you are bound to generate if you want to go down this route. And also we can do things on market analysis, things like Rio, Pastel, and all these sorts of different tools that will then help you, to do your market analysis and reviews and stuff. And also things like cost benefit analysis is something as well that the mentors will be able to help you with. So what you get out of this at the end is actually a potential exploitation plan, and also recommendation for next step, which you can then use to as a tool to make a business case for senior management within the business if it's something that you would need as a first step to progress. Or you can use that as an indicator to decide, which direction that you want to go with for that particular idea or concept. Yeah, so that pretty much sums up the sort of support that you were looking to get, that you can anticipate to get by participating in this. And I hope that that gives you enough insight to two things: what we're looking for this particular call from the application side, and also the benefits of it. And hopefully this should encourage you to, give you enough reasons to actually apply and work with us. Yeah, so thanks for listening, and I'll any questions that we welcomed.
Perfect. Thank you, Tian, for this introduction to the support program. And now, yeah, we still have time to open the floor to the questions. So here, Alessandra, are there any questions in the chat that we can reply to?
Yes, just one question for Tian at the moment. So how will you measure the results of the support program, like technical or the business assessments?
I'm not quite sure what do you mean by measuring the results. If you were referring to the reviewing process to decide whether the project has been completed or not.
Yes, like the kind of
based
validation. Yeah, the validation.
So it will be based on one deliverable, that is the final report, which will be basically is a recommendation report on the business side or the technology side. Yes, and I will say the content of that, it will be very, very different depending on the individual projects. So and obviously the aspects or the area that the individual project wants to look at. Yes, but I would say the bare minimum that we will be expecting to see, at least from the deliverable, is I would say concrete executable, I would say, actions or next step, and a bit of a time frame of the execution after the project, what the sort of expected scenario and what the company will do with it. Yes, is a bare minimum expectation that we will be expecting, yeah, as a deliverable.
Okay, great. And what you will tell are the main barriers for LBAAM adoption among all SMEs so far?
Right. Okay, so it is a very It's a very common question. A lot of people have asked, and I'm pretty sure that everyone would agree that, cost is a big thing. And that's why in this particular 3 months project, in terms of the business support side, there are things that you can do around looking at different business models in the adoption process. So it's not necessarily means that you have to own or bring the manufacturing process in-house. There are obviously other methods of actually looking at adopting the process without actually bringing the technology in-house by subcontracting all this sort of stuff. I mean, the key for us is that because the adoption basically relies on people using the manufacturing processes for their own component, right? So whether that is being done in-house or done externally is something that we can explore, but is the understanding of how that application works. So this is what we're trying to aim to get out of it, is to get people to think, especially the end users or people that make stuff, to think about actually, is there a better way of doing it? And is the better way of doing it actually photonics manufacturing or laser-based manufacturing? And if the answer is yes, then how do we do it technically or business-wise? So I would say the cost of adoption is an issue that a lot of the companies are facing. But we also have to bear in mind as well is that there are actually a lot of SME or a lot of job shops around that can do a lot of these things. But it's just that, people have to then go to them, to say that I want to make this, So it's that connection that hopefully through this program, we should be able to enable more people that is actually have products to look at making them with lasers. And then we can then explore the route of, whether it makes more sense to actually, you take the production in and you do it in-house, or actually you look for supply chain, to make these components, depending on your applications and your needs.
Yes, great.
I hope that answered the question.
I think so. Another question for Isa this time. Can we apply for assessment program if we do not know how to implement LBAAM yet?
Yes, thank you for the question. So yes, I mean, indeed, as I mentioned on my slides, you should have a clear idea of the use case. So we understand that you still do not know everything on how to proceed with this adoption, but at least like to see the benefits, to be aware of the challenges is very important to increase your proposal chances. So of course, you will not be disqualified for not knowing everything, but more you know and more secure you're about this vision, then of course you have better chance to get selected. And in case of like very initial, like I would say that if it's your first time like hearing about laser technology, we advise you like actually to reach us. I mean, I'm not sure if the proposal will have a very big chance, but we really want to talk with such a very early adopters as well, to actually, at least give you the first idea or assessment or consultation on this. So if you just want to consult it by email, do not hesitate to tell us your vision. We are not able to help you to write the proposal, of course, but we can guide you at least, even if it's not this program, we can at least give you some initial vision, because this is our main mission. So we invite everyone to contact us if you're still not sure how this technology can help you yet.
Great, thanks so much.
Yeah.
So guys, I don't see any more questions in our chat box. Of course, everyone is really welcome to write us, as Isa just underline, and remember to apply before 31st March.
Yes, here is the link, and of course we'll summarize these 3 main questions in our community, where you can also ask your questions directly or send us an email. So thank you very much also to Tian and to Alessandra for organizing it, and we hope to see your applications coming. Thank you very much for everyone's time today.
Cool. And good luck with your applications.
Yes. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.